If you have any questions during the course of this training, you can feel free to put them in the chat window and I'll try to answer those as I go through the presentation here. On your screen right now is a Google slide presentation. It has a short link on it. If you have Drive open in another tab, you can feel free to type in that address. Once you go there, you'll be able to go to File and then choose Make a Copy, and you'll have your own copy of this. Otherwise, if you don't want to go there right now, while we're waiting here, you can feel free to pull out your cell phone and snap a shot of your screen or write down that short link. It's bit.ly/2VMEUWL. And where you see the uppercase letters, you'll need to duplicate that exactly with the uppercases and the lower cases. And that will give you access to this presentation. So again, if you follow that link, if you'd like, on your computer, if you're logged into Drive, you can just choose File, Make a Copy, and you'll have your own copy of this presentation. I won't be following along on this presentation because I tend to like to do things live so you can see how everything works. I will be covering everything that is in this presentation. And if you have any questions later on, you've got my email address on this slide right here that you can use to feel free to email me. I will be recording this presentation. However, this will be the third time that we've trained on this in the last 2 weeks. So I've got a few other recordings as well. So if I don't send you the YouTube for link to this presentation, it will be to another one that'll have all the same content on it. So after this training is over, I'll probably be sending you a YouTube link of one of the previous Docs and Drive trainings, and you'll be able to pause at any time that YouTube video and follow along in Drive. And again, if you have any questions later on, you can feel free to email me. So I think we have pretty much everybody in the room. If anybody else pops on, I'll go ahead and add them as we go. All right, so again, on the screen right now, if you have a camera with you or you want to grab a pen real quick, you can write down the short link to this presentation. And then you can, if you're in Drive, you can visit that link and then go File, Make a Copy, and have your own copy. Wait for about 20 or 30 more seconds if one of you has to jump up real quick and grab a pen and a piece of paper. Otherwise, you can take out your cell phone and snap a shot of the screen and go to that short link later on. And if you have any questions during this training at all, you can use the chat window in Zoom to ask your questions. This is an hour-and-a-half training. We have 2 hours designated, so when we're done going through the training, I'll be available in the room for up to half an hour. If you have any specific questions, maybe about a Drive or Docs project you're working on or something that you want to do or a feature, or if you want me to go over something for you. Otherwise, I'll let you know when the training's over, and if you're good to go, then you can go ahead and jump out of the meeting, and I will be sending a YouTube link to this presentation or one that I recorded earlier to your email address. Okay, I will go over this slide real quick, and then I'm going to jump away from here. So Docs and Drive, if you're new to it, you've wondered what the big deal was on it, we'll talk about all the features as we go over the next hour and a half. One of the great features about it is that as you work, it auto-saves. If you've ever worked in Microsoft Word and had your computer's power go out, or you closed something and didn't save for whatever reason, or just your computer crashed, then you know the pain of losing some of your work. Google Docs auto-saves your work about every 3 to 5 seconds. And if you're like me and you're a really fast typer, it'll try to auto-save even faster, so you'll never lose your work. I could lose power in the middle of a Google Doc and probably lose no more than 1 to 2 words because it's constantly auto-saving. Docs and Drive make it easy for you to share your work with others so they can view it, or you can add them as a collaborator, which allows them to edit or make comments as well on your document if you want. You can access it from pretty much any internet connected device. You can use it on Chromebooks, Macs, PCs, tablets, cell phones. There are specific apps for all of the Google products for your tablets and cell phones. You can also use Drive as an app, and if you click on a Google Doc, what it will do is prompt you to install or open the Docs app in order to make edits, but you can make edits directly on that really small screen on your phone. There is voice typing and dictation built into this as well. You can translate documents into one of about 60 different languages. It will make a copy of the document and then produce a translated version of it as well. And everything in Google pretty much integrates with everything else that's Google. So if you create a Google Doc, you can actually embed that into a Google site. You can produce content in it from Google Sheets, which is a spreadsheet app, and so forth. There's a revision history tool. I'll show you that as well. And you can download, if you're working in Docs, but your end result, even though it's in Docs, you would like to see a Word version of it or a PDF, you can actually download your Google Docs into a Word format or a PDF format to share. And there are a variety of add-ons. These are third-party vendor tools that will add additional functions to Google Docs and Drive for you. And then it just mentions here that there's doc sheet slides, forms, drawings, and maps, as well as a lot of other tools. So I'm going to go ahead and break away from here, and I'm going to move over to Google Drive. So let's see here. There we go. Now, can everyone see my Google Drive screen? Go ahead and pop in chat. Let me know if you can see my Drive. Okay. So you can see something here. Yes, okay, great. All right, so to start off with Drive and Docs, we're going to talk about Drive itself. And what I'm going to do is use your experience with your computer, whether it's a PC or a Mac, to draw from when we talk about Drive. So Google Drive and all of the tools that come with it is Google's attempt to replicate as best it can your workspace. And when I say your workspace, I want you to think about on your computer in your C drive, if you've got a PC, or on your hard drive or a Mac, somewhere in there, you probably notice that you have a My Documents folder. Maybe you've been saving items in there. Maybe they're organized. Maybe you're like a lot of people and you just save to My Documents. And so you just kind of dig in there. And maybe you use the search function in order to find something in there. When you think of Drive, I want you to think in terms of that My Documents folder in your computer. It's just, rather than it being on your C drive or on your hard drive, it's somewhere on a server, somewhere else on Google servers. So it's quote unquote in the cloud. Think of this kind of like that folder, or you can think of it kind of like in some ways like your desktop, only you're not going to see apps in here, you'll just see files. So we'll talk about Drive right now. I only have one thing in here. I don't typically use my Tellerico.net account, and I like to keep it that way so I can keep this fairly empty because I don't want to have it full of stuff. If you're using Drive for the first time, you probably don't have a lot of stuff in there as well, and I don't want it to look really daunting to you. I want it to look fairly simple and clean. So the only thing I have in here is the presentation that I'm using. Now in the area up here, it says Quick Access, and down here it says Files. The Quick Access tool is something you can turn on and off. If you don't see Quick Access, in the upper right corner is a little cog wheel, and that's your settings. No matter what you use in Google, whether it's Docs, Drive, and so forth, you're going to find probably that settings wheel up here. And if I click it, you'll see settings right here. So I'm going to click on that. So again, that's up here in the upper right corner in the cog wheel. Oh, someone is not seeing the screen. So let me make sure here. I'm going to go ahead and, all right. Anita, do you see it now? Okay, great. Yeah, I must have moved over. Bermudez, do you see my Drive screen now? Okay, great. So I think I accidentally clicked over. So I'm in Drive. Drive.google.com is the address for this. Everything in Google usually is that thing.google.com. So in drive.google.com, I'm in Drive right now. And again, this is like your My Documents folder on your computer. So up here on top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the settings cogwheel in the upper right. And I'm going to choose settings. There's a couple of basic settings for Drive. Now, I've currently got down here under suggestions, I've got make relative files handy when you need them in quick access, and that's checked by default. It might not be checked for you. What it does, and I'm just going to uncheck it real quick and hit done. What it does is it adds an area up on top here for documents that you've looked at or created recently, maybe documents you've gone to often. So I'm going to go ahead and click it one more time to settings, and under suggestions, I'm going to click make relevant files handy in quick access and then hit done again. So it adds this area up here. Now, because I've only got one document, it's the only thing in here. But if this were filled with folders and documents, this would begin to fill up with documents. And again, this changes based on what did you look at last? What are you looking at the most? Maybe something that was recently shared with you that you opened up one time. It's just a way of finding something that you've looked at recently or you use a lot. If you find it's not useful, again, you can go to settings up here and you can just uncheck it. Your storage, if you're using a Telerico.net, something provided by an employer, it's going to tell you how much is used. Now, if you're using a private Google account that you created yourself, and when I say private, it's going to have an email address that ends with @gmail.com. If you have that, you have up to 15 gigabytes of storage space across all of your products. So if you make some Google Docs, you make some presentation slides, if you store files up here, you're going to have up to 15 gigabytes of memory available to you, which is quite a bit. On your Gmail accounts, if you find in your personal use that you are running out of space, it's fairly easy to buy more space. I want to say it's something like $2.99 a month for up to 100 gigabytes, and then you can just continue onward up to terabytes. So it's not expensive to add space. On your work one, the @telerico.net, you don't have to worry about that. The one that's provided by Tulare County Office of Education has unlimited storage space. So all this is going to tell you is how much is used so far, but you don't have to worry about running out of space. You will never, ever run out of space in Drive for creating or storing documents. Below that is convert uploads, and by default, this will be unchecked. I recommend you leave this unchecked. You can actually store any kind of document in Google Drive. Word documents, Excel, PowerPoints, PDFs, images, videos, and so forth. If you check this box in settings, what will happen is it will try to convert every document it can into the appropriate Google Docs format. But if you're just wanting to share or to store and maybe share Microsoft formatted documents, you can do that by just leaving that unchecked. It will not convert it. You can manually choose to convert any files if you want, and I'll show you that later as well. Don't change your language settings unless you want to approach Google Drive in Espanol or Italian or something else. Right now, the interface is in English, so unless you want to change that, I wouldn't play with that. Under density here, it will just show you more or less on the screen. It'll change up the font size a little bit, tighten up how much space is between items. I like to leave mine where it is on comfortable. You can always play with those later. Go back to settings and change it if you want. On the left-hand side is Manage Apps. If you have added any additional features from third-party vendors, in here you'll see them and you can actually turn them off or remove them. We'll talk a little bit about managing additional apps that work with Drive and Docs. So I'm going to hit done. So that's enough on the settings here. We're going to move over here to the left-hand side, starting with priority. Now, by default, My Drive is probably highlighted in blue for you when you land on Drive. So this is the root folder, as they call it. It's the main folder. Think of it kind of like your My Documents folder. Above that, though, is priority. And if you see that, that allows you to actually create workspaces. Workspaces are a way of you assembling documents together so that you can find them quickly. Now, if you use Drive a lot, or eventually over time you do, you're going to find that in Drive, you're going to have a lot of folders and files in here. And it may take a little bit of time to find something you're looking for. If you're asked to work on a project that requires you to look at files in a number of different folders, then you might want to use the priority button here in Workspaces to put those files all together in one place. What it does is it doesn't remove them out of Drive's organization. So if you make a bunch of folders and you put your documents in there, when you add them into a workspace, it doesn't remove them from their original folders. It only highlights them in here as sort of like a shortcut. And so it just assembles them together in a different place. When you're done and you finish up and you remove the workspace or hide it, the documents that you originally assembled in here will still be in the exact location they were before you created that workspace. It may save you a lot of time if you're having to assemble documents from across folders and you don't want to remove them from those folders. This just makes it easy for you. All you have to do in here is click. You can rename a workspace. Right now I've got an untitled one. So I'm just going to show you real quick how this works. I'm just going to put in Steve's project workspace. And this is a fairly new feature in Drive. So then from here, I can click it, it will open, and then I can add files from Drive right in here. I can choose recently opened, go digging through my Drive, or look for files that have been shared with me by others. If I add them in, so if I click this, there's an insert button that appears, and I can add up to 25 files in here for a particular short-term or long-term project. And again, it doesn't physically move them. I'm just going to close this, and I'm going to hit done. So if these are files that were shared with you, it doesn't mess with sharing permissions or anything along those lines. It's just a temporary place for you to help you in a project. We talked about My Drive. Again, this is your area where you'll find all your folders and files. The longer this list goes, you'll begin to see over here on the right-hand side a drop-down or a zoom or a scrolling menu. You can just scroll through it to find. Shared drives is a file type folder that can be created by your organization in order to put documents in folders that they automatically want everyone in your organization to find. So it could be something like an employee manual or HR-based forms and so forth, maybe some business forms. If they're put in there, then anyone can find them if they have the Telerico.net account and they're logged in. They're kind of like auto-saved and auto-shared to everyone in the organization. Below that is shared with me. These would be any documents that are not mine. I didn't create them, but for one reason or another, they've been shared with me. Maybe I belong to a group they shared it with. Maybe it's been shared just with me. But if you don't see a document that you know is shared with you, you can click here and you'll find them. Usually, if it's brand new, you'll find it up here under quick access. Otherwise, you'll notice it says last week and earlier this month. Chronologically, the most recently shared file with you will be, or folder will be in this area up on top. And then you can just scroll and scroll and scroll to look for items that are shared with you. Now, in Drive, I can make folders and I can organize as much as I want. Anything that is just shared with me, I cannot. There's no place in here to create folders to organize items and share it with me. So if something gets shared with you and you're like, you know, I'm tired of scrolling to find this thing that was shared with me a few months ago, I'd like to organize it in Drive, just like my stuff. Anything that has been shared with you in Drive, you can right click on it and you can add a shortcut to Drive. And what that will do is add a shortcut in the Drive folder. So I'll show you how this works. So here is an item that was shared with me. Again, this is not an item I created. So if I right click on it and go add the shortcut to Drive, it's going to say Drive, and there's a little arrow right here. I can add it just to Drive, or I can dig through folders until I find the right folder. If I don't see a folder and I'd like to have a folder to put it in, I can click right here and I can add right here this little folder with a plus sign. I can create a brand new folder right from here in Drive, and then I can add that item in there. So this is a school lunches item. So if I go right here and say new folder, I can call this folder school lunches and hit check. And that will create the folder. I'm now in that folder and I can say add shortcut. It says it's been added, so I'll close this. If I go back to my drive, there's a school lunches folder, and in it is a school lunches file. There's a little icon indicating to me this is a spreadsheet, and there's a little tiny arrow right there. Whenever you see these icons with an arrow, what that means is that it's a shortcut. It's actually probably not yours, and you've just added that shortcut to Drive. But as you can see in my Drive here, it's been put in a nice, neat folder that I created. So again, anything that's been shared with you, it's not organized, it's just there chronologically. But if you want to add it to Drive in order to organize it, just right-click on it, and then you can just add the shortcut to Drive. You can, by the way, add more than one shortcut. So if this school lunch is one where a file that, you know what, I'd love to have it in more than one folder in Drive, you can actually, you'll notice even though I added a shortcut to Drive, I can add another one. I can actually have documents shared with me in more than one folder. So it's easy to find based upon maybe it belongs to two different kinds of projects I'm working with. And I want to make it easier to find. So a document that is shared with you is owned by somebody else, and they may have it organized in their Drive however they please. If you add a shortcut to Drive and you make a folder and name it whatever you want and put it in that folder, it will not change anything for the originator. They'll still have it in their folder, named whatever they want. You can organize it after you add a shortcut to Drive however you want. It does not move it out of their folder. It does not mess up anything as far as their organization goes. Just want to make sure that you know that. Recent. On the left-hand side again, any item that you've recently looked at or edited, viewed, created will be under recent. And again, chronologically, here's earlier this month, last week, and then today. So anything that's recent will be here. So if you know that it's something that you recently opened, maybe it's yours, maybe it was something that was shared with you not too long ago, and you're not quite sure where it's at, you can always jump over to recent in Drive, and then you can scroll and scroll and scroll. The more items that get shared with you or that you click on will be here, and you can keep on scrolling until you find the item. Starred. There's nothing currently in Starred. Starred is a feature that lets you bookmark a folder or file. You get to decide what the importance is of it. I know some people will use Starred, and maybe it's Friday, it's 3:30, and there's a couple of documents they need to review or make edits on, and they're afraid that on Monday they're going to forget. So what they do is they add a star to it, and when they do, it shows up here. So Monday, when they come into the office, they click here and they see it. So I'm going to show how this works in action. I'm going to go to my Drive, and I've got, again, this school lunches file. If I right-click on it, you'll see that right-click works great on folders and files in Drive. Right here it says Add to Starred. So if I click that, I'll close right here. If I go to Starred, that item will be in there. It doesn't change anything about the document. It doesn't move it or anything like that. It just adds that little bookmark. So on Monday, I come in, I see that, I make my changes. When I'm done, I can just go to the document. When I'm in Starred, I can click right here and I can say, you know what, I don't need it starred anymore. I'm just going to remove it from Starred. And it'll still be wherever it was originally, but it won't show up under Starred. Now, I had a question about original creator of a shared document deletes it. Will it be removed from the shared with me file? And the answer to that is yes. So if I've got a document I've shared with somebody else and I delete it, I can choose to leave a copy with individuals I've shared it with. Otherwise, it will be deleted. You won't see it anymore, and that's just for the originator of it. Now, that said, I'm going to go over here on the left side to trash. And so what I'm going to do is go back to Drive here, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And let's see here. That's mine. Let me see, right click. Yeah, I don't have anything in here. But if I throw something in the trash, it's going to be right here. So what I'm going to do real quick is just add a document real fast here. We'll get back to creating a document, but I wanted you to see this feature. Hello. So I'm going to close this. and go back to my drive. And here's my hello. I'm going to click on it and remove. What that does is it puts it into trash. So now I've got something to work with. Now, if you have a vanilla regular at gmail.com account, the little personal ones that anyone could get for free, if you put something in trash, you have 30 days to remember that it's in trash. On the 31st day, it will disappear from trash permanently. So you have to remember, if you put something in trash, you have up to a month to remember that was not a good choice. The organizational accounts, the @tularico.net account that you may have, that one works differently because you have unlimited storage space. Anything you put in trash will stay in trash forever until you choose to empty the trash can. Or you can right click on it and you can delete it forever here, just that one particular document. So unless you follow up on that document in trash and you say, no, really, I want to throw it away, it's going to stay in there. So the cool thing about it is you don't have to empty trash because you're never going to run out of space. So if you put something in trash and 8 months from now, you realize, I shouldn't have deleted that document. If you never empty trash, it's going to be in there. You can find it and you can put it right back where it's at. So what I mean by you can put it right back where it's at, you might have noticed this when I right-clicked on it to delete it forever. There's also a restore function. When you click restore to something in the trash, it will not only put it back in Drive, if the folder that it was in still exists, it will put it back in that folder or subfolder in exactly the place it was before you threw it away. So if I go over here and click restore, and then go back to my Drive, here it is again, right back where it was. So just remember, if you have a Tularico account, you don't have to worry about emptying the trash unless you want to. Items will never disappear, and you'll never run out of space. All right, so I covered everything here on the left-hand side just about. I'm going to move over here to this side right here. This right here is a view option, and right now it's in what's called grid. It's a toggle, and right now the option it's going to give me is to swap from this grid view to list view. So you'll notice down here, I actually can see a preview of what this document looks like, which is a lot of help if you're trying to figure it out by sight, which document you're looking for. Hello doesn't have anything in here as a preview because there's no content on the document. But if I go over here to list view, you'll see that that preview is no longer there, and it gives you a lot more that you can see, more folders and more files. So if you would rather have list view to quickly scroll through, you can use that. Otherwise, when I clicked on list view, this toggle now becomes grid view, which will put me back to this format. So it's just a view format. If I click on a file, let's say on my hello document, and I go over here next to that toggle, there's a little I for information. And if I choose that, it's going to steal a little bit of space over here on the right-hand side to tell me about it. I own it. It's located in my Drive. I created it at 126. I modified it at the same time, and I opened it at the same time. All this will change other than the creation date based upon how often I open it and changes I make. I can also add a description in here if I'd like. There's also an activity button right here, and that one will tell you anything that you did to it. So you notice I created it, moved it to trash, and at 128 I restored it. So anything I've done with it will be here, and I can scroll forever on this document to the day it was born. Could be 1,000 changes made to it over 6 months. All of the activity will be there. If I share this document with others and they make changes, they will also be listed under activity. So I'm going to close this out, get that space back. Now you may have noticed something when I clicked on this document right here. Let me go back to my Drive here. All right, it caught up with me. You'll notice when I clicked on this document here, there aren't as many options that show up here. Just the trash can and this 3-dot menu, which is similar to the right-click menu. But if I click on this document, it has a few more: view, share, and hello. This item here was shared from my other account, and I don't give rights to share it further, which is why there is no share icon on here. This one is mine. I created it on this account, and so I have the rights to share it as well. So sometimes you will see additional icons up here based upon options you have. All right, up on top here, you can also search in Drive. So because it's Google, there's a built-in search tool. Now on your computers, you can search obviously for files as well. So they want to make sure there is a searchable here. So if I click in search and Drive, I can type in hello, and anything that's got hello will be here. And then I can click it. Any folders that have hello, any document that has the word hello inside of the body of the text will show up here as well. Now, if this isn't good enough for you, you can actually go a little deeper. There's a drop-down menu right here in Drive in the search box. And if I click it, there's a little bit more of an advanced search for files. What kind of file? Well, PDFs, photos, documents, presentations, forms, and so forth. So if you know what kind of file it is, you can narrow down your search results by saying it's this type of file. Owner. If you know that it's a file you do not own, you can say anyone, or you can narrow it to not owned by me. If you know it's yours, you can narrow it by saying this is a file I own. Location, anywhere. If you click it, you can navigate through to all kinds of options. In my Drive, this is a document shared with me, or this is visible to anyone in TilleryCo.net. You can also, by the way, search your trash if you're not sure if you threw it away or not. And you can also search any starred items. If you know that it was a document that was edited yesterday, you have the option of choosing when was the last time it was modified. If you're not sure when, you've got any time in here as well. You can put in a search term, you can put in words that are in the body of it, or you can put in that it was shared with a particular person, and so forth. All right, I'm going to close this. So I think I've just about covered the major items that are on here. So if I right click in the white space, you'll see that I can add a folder. I can upload files, upload an entire folder with files, or I can create docs and sheets and slides and so forth, and there's more. So that's a right click in the white space. I also have that right over here in new. So what I'm going to do right now is show you how this works. The new button has a lot of different options. Now, before I do that, I want to make sure I'm starting in my Drive. So I'm just going to click on my Drive right here. I'm going to click new. And again, here are the same options that you saw before. All right, you can create a folder right here. If I choose that, it's going to pop up and ask me what would I like the name of that folder to be. And I'll just go Steve's Great Folder. You can call it whatever you want. I'm going to click create. So let me zoom out here a little bit more. All right. If I double click on this folder, it's going to show me that there's nothing in this folder. But if I go back to new and create another folder and say Steve's first subfolder and click create, it's going to create that folder inside of the folder I just opened. So if I make anything new or I make a folder, it's going to be in the place I am. So when I was in Drive, it made this folder. But when I opened it, it made the subfolder in here because that's where I was when I said make a new folder. If I double click that, of course, it's empty. Now you might have noticed this up here. This is known as your crumb trail. It's going to show you where you are folder-wise. So I'm in Steve's first subfolder inside of my Great folder, which is of course in my Drive. These function as links. You can use those to navigate upward or downward, or I can go all the way back to Drive right here. Now, of course, you can always click right here for Drive, and you can always click right here to get to the main folder in Drive as well. Now, because I made some folders and subfolders, I can show you another feature. Most people click right here to get to Drive. And I've noticed that there are a lot of people who are not aware of this little tiny black arrow right here to the left. If you click it, it will expand and show you the folders you have in Drive. And if you click on any of these arrows here, you'll see that it will show you a subfolder inside of that folder. So you can actually see the structure of your folders, which might be great because if I've got something in school lunches, like this guy right here, if I want to move it, I could right click and I could go ahead and try to copy it and move it around, or I can choose move to and move it, or I can leave it open, go over here to my drive and expand my folders until I see the folder I want to put it in. And then I can click right here and drag it into that subfolder. So that little arrow actually is nice for wanting to drag across folders. It saves you visually from having to dig around and right click and do anything special. So drag and drop is in full effect. So if I click on my subfolder, here is that school lunches. And if I want, I can click and drag it to my drive, and it'll put it back in my drive. So this is a great tool to use to see what folders you have and even to drag things across once you make it visible over here. So I made this folder and a subfolder. I'm going to go back to Drive. Sharing is built in even in Drive. So if I click once on the folder to select it, you'll see up here in the upper right corner is a share button. If I right click on the folder, I also have the same share button. So either one will work. If I click it, it's going to open up this simple share menu. Now the reason it's simple like this is because most teachers, most workers out there tend to share a folder with a known small audience. It may be a coworker, it may be 2 or 3 coworkers. A third grade teacher may share it with the 2 or 3 other third grade teachers in their campus. They don't tend to share it globally, so they don't need any bigger, larger global permissions. They just need to know the email address of the individuals in there. So Lisa Pace, I see, does not have a Tulare Co account. And Anita Mendoza. So if I go to somebody else here, say Doug Martin, as I start typing in the name of anyone that is in TulareCo.net, you will begin to see their addresses. So if I go back to just DO, here's a list of everyone whose name has a DO in it. Here's a Donetta Brown and so forth. If I go to D, then this list gets much longer. So as I continue to type, it gets closer and closer to just that name. And then I can choose them. And if I want, I can add another person. I can add Doug Martin and so forth and keep adding people. So this is the who I want to share it with. On the right-hand side where the pencil icon, it lets you know what they can do. So right now it says that they can organize, add, and edit. So if I share this folder with Donetta and Doug right now, what will happen is they will have the rights to organize things in that folder, and they can even add additional items in that folder too. They can open up anything in there, and they can edit anything in those folders. So be careful what permission level you're giving to the people you're sharing it with. If you're sharing a folder and you just need them to be able to see the content, you don't need any changes or edits, then you can just click on that pencil icon and say can view only, and that's all they'll be able to do. Now this will not keep them from making a copy for themselves. But if they make a copy and edit that copy, it does not change the original files or folders you shared with them. So no worries there. Now, if I leave this checked where it says notify people, it will send them an email at the Google Accounts email address that works with their Donetta and Doug's accounts, their TulareCo.net accounts. I can add a personalized note. Hi, YouTube. I've just shared this folder with you. It has some important information. That will become part of the message that shows up in their Gmail accounts at TulareCo.net. And then there will also be a button on there they can click that will allow them to go to that folder. And then because it's shared with them, they'll actually be able to add a shortcut to my drive and organize it as they please. There is an advanced down here as well. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to hit cancel. Advanced is right here. This is for more global permissions. Now, if you make a folder that is not in a folder that's been shared with others, let's say you make a folder right there at the top level in Drive, by default, it will be private and only you can access it. And it has you listed right here. Of course, you can invite people right here, just like you did with the simple sharing menu. But if you go right here where it says private and you click on change, these are more global audiences. And it goes up a hierarchy. Right now it's off and only specific people can see it, i.e. just you, unless you share it with others. Or you can go anyone at Tulare County Office of Ed with the link. Now, if you're using a personal Google account, you won't see any of these organizations. If you're using an organizational account from somewhere else, you'll see those audiences right here. If I go up the level and I say anyone at TCOE with the link, they have to be logged into their TulareCo.net account, and I have to have sent them the link. So maybe I send it to them via Gmail. Maybe I send it via Outlook to a regular address. It doesn't matter. If they're logged in on their computer at TulareCo.net, when they click on the link, it will open the document because they're logged in. If they're not, and they click in the email on the link, it will pop up a screen saying you must log in to your TulareCo.net account, and they have to log in. This one says anyone at TCOE can find it and access it. They do not have to have the link. So I'm going to cancel real quick here and cancel again. This up here, this search box in Drive, if I say that they have the right to share or to look at that document, and I use that sharing option, again, I'm going to go to advanced and change. If I say anyone can find and access, they can use that search box in Drive to find it. Anyone in TCOE. So again, be careful. So if you're a teacher at a school site and you say anyone in that organization can find and access, if you are sharing a folder with answer keys to quizzes, your students who have accounts through your organization will be able to see it too, and you don't want that. So again, just be judicious and think about your sharing permissions. These next two are outside of the organization. So if I say on anyone with the link, I can turn that on and then send the link to anyone. And they do not have to be signed in to Google in order to see it. This is a great feature for sending PDFs of instructions or permission slips to parents and so forth. And they can just click on the link in their email and they can view it. Above that is public. Now, when you go public on the web, what you're saying is that Google can find this document and add it to their search engine. So unless you want anyone in the world to be able to search for and find this document, don't go here. So again, off, just me and people I identify. Anyone in my organization who has the hyperlink sent to them or found on a website, they can click it, but they must be logged in. This one is anyone at TCOE, they must be logged in. They don't have to have a link. This one is on anyone with the link. If you have aspirations to building a website, this is a great feature because you can add links to your documents here and they can just click and view it. They don't have to be logged in. So these again are the who's. Once you pick the who, then you go down here to what can they do. It will begin by default with can view to protect you. But you can also say can comment. And if you say that they can comment, they can see the document and they can use the comment feature to make comments on the document. You can decide whether or not you want to take into account their comments. The last one here on top is can edit. And that one will allow them to equally go into your document, add images, change the text, the font, the color, delete text, even wipe the document clean completely if you want, or if they want. I'll show you how you can recover from that if that was a mistake on their part. But just be careful. If you're giving edit rights, know who they are and be able to trust them that they won't make edits beyond what's agreed upon, okay? Now, if I say anyone with the link can view, and then I say save, this hyperlink right here, it's a really long hyperlink. But if I send that to somebody, and they have the link. They can view it. They can't edit it. They can make a copy, but they can't make any changes to it. I'm going to go to change, and I'm going to say back to off and hit save, and that will remove sharing permissions. If you share it with somebody down here, you will have an X by there, and you can click that X anytime you want to remove sharing permissions, and then just hit done. All right, so that covers our sharing. I think we just about covered everything in Drive. So does anyone have any questions they want to add into the chat box just with regard to Drive itself? Because next we're going to move on to Docs. All right. So I mentioned that you can create a folder here. Before I move to Docs, I just want to cover these two right here. Drive is not just a place where you make Google stuff. If you have a bunch of PDFs, Excel files, PowerPoints, you can actually upload them here and you can make folders and put them in there. They will stay in their original format. If you have ever had a backup flash drive or thumb drive go bad on you and you lost files, if you've had a teenager who took your thumb drive and brought it to school with one PowerPoint on it, and in order to make that PowerPoint, they deleted all of your photos that were on that flash drive, then you know the pain of losing something. If a computer goes bad or gets stolen and you have everything on your hard drive, the computer, then you know the pain of not having a backup. You can actually upload files in here, or you can upload whole folders, which will upload the folder, all subfolders, and all files into Drive. And you can use Drive as a way of backing up or storing your documents rather than physically on your computer. You can download them, edit them. If they're Microsoft Office documents, you can actually edit them natively in Drive, and I'll show you that. So just know that on top of creating docs, you can actually store anything in Drive this way as well. If you would like a more synchronized option, right here under settings is get Drive for desktop. If you've ever used Dropbox or Box, it works the same way. If you do this on your computer, it will install a small program that will create a folder on your computer that says Google Drive. Anything that you drag and drop from anywhere in your computer into that folder will reside in that folder physically on your machine, but it will make a synchronized version in Drive for you as well. And so when you go to that folder, you'll actually be able to edit. So let's see here. I've actually got Drive right here. And if I go into my folder, let's see if that opens for us. These are all of the documents that I currently have in that Drive folder. And you'll see it's a folder right here, just like desktop, downloads, documents, and so forth. But if I put anything from my desktop into here, it is still available for me right here. I can double click and open up Word. I can open up PowerPoint, and I can edit the document and close out. But what it will do is put a link to this up in Drive right here, and it'll keep a copy of it backed up there as well. What's cool about it is I can go to a computer all the way across the world, and if I log into Drive there, the documents will still be here. I can open and edit, and everywhere that I have that Drive download, it will synchronize to those computers when they're on and connected to the internet automatically and keep my changes ready for me. All right, so that said, we have finally covered everything in Drive here. So what I'm going to do right now is on this main one, I'm going to right click and see if I can't remove this particular item here. It's kind of hidden from me right now. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go over here to New, and I'm going to choose Google Docs. Now, to create a new Google Doc, it's right here. There's also a little drop-down menu that has some additional options, but I'm just going to click on Google Docs because that's really all I need. And it's going to open up a blank Google document called Untitled Document. They will always start out as an untitled document. If you want to name it, you just click right here. So right now it says it's reconnecting, so I'm just going to refresh it and see if it connects for me. All right. So I can click right here and I can name this document. You can click there anytime you want and rename this document over and over and over again. Underneath that, you've got File, Edit, View, Insert, Format, and Tools. If you're familiar with the older versions of Microsoft Word before they put that big ribbon bar on top, let's say Word 2000 or Word 1998 and so forth, before they put that big ribbon bar, File, Edit, View, Insert, Format, and Tools were the exact same order of Microsoft Word's tools. They wanted to do that on purpose to kind of mimic the environment you may be used to in Microsoft Word. But you'll notice too that this is a much more simpler interface. There aren't as many options on here, but they're pretty powerful options, and they do the bulk of the work that most people do in Microsoft Word. I'm going to blow this document up a little bit. So I'm going to click down in here. Your little blinking insertion point, as they call it, or cursor, will blink right here, ready for you to go to type. And if I start typing, it's going to be in normal text, Arial 11 point black. So if I click right here and I go, my favorite website is Public Broadcasting System, period. If I hit enter, I get a new line. Everything functions just like it did in Word. There's nothing mind-blowing, nothing that changes here. In fact, it may be a bit of a letdown because you're maybe used to a much more souped-up version of word processing. So again, I can just go ahead and click and add another sentence right here. My favorite color is green, period. Of course, you could type whatever you want in here, right? So let's take a look at some of the other items in here. So starting with untitled, I said you could click in here to name the title, the document, but if I've already typed in text and I haven't named it yet, if I just click right here, it will steal the first sentence of your document as the name. You're not stuck with that, but it's just guessing. Maybe you want it to be called that. So if I want, I can just highlight this and go, Steve's new document. And you'll see notice that here that it's located in the Drive folder. If I click away, that's the name. If I have name remorse, I can click up here and rename it as many times as I want. So going through our menus here, you have your usual oopsies, your undo and redo buttons right here. You have print. If I click on print, it's going to open up a print menu for me, or it's going to download to Drive or to downloads. So under downloads, I currently have Steve's new document right here. And it downloads it as a PDF. There's another way to print, but this is a fast print. It takes it off the internet, PDFs the document, throws it into your downloads folder, ready to print. You can open it up, print it to your regular printer. Under File, there's also a print and print preview right here, which has more choices. And we'll talk about that in a bit. You have right here spelling and grammar check. I click it, a window opens up and says everything looks good. So if I go in here and go, you'll see this is misspelled. It puts that very familiar red squiggly line under it. And if I click right here, it tells me that this is misspelled, and it even recommends what I should add. Now, if you have a name in here and the document tells you this is not a word because it's a name that isn't a word in the English language, but you want to use that, when you click on it, you can say accept, and it will add it to your personal Google Dictionary. In this case, I'll change it to broadcasting, and now it says the document looks good. After that is format paint or paint format. Is there anyone, pop into the chat room, is there anyone in here who's ever used paint format before in Word? All right. This is a feature that Microsoft Word has had for probably close to 20 years, and most people don't know about it. So this also works in Word. I'm going to show you something new here. So if you have a really long document, let's say you were working on something for college and you had to write a term paper or a dissertation or something like that, and it was a 20, 30-page document, and it had headers and chapters and so forth, sections, and you wanted to have these special, unique section headers, and you wanted them to be 18 point, and you wanted them to be bold, and you wanted them to be like a dark purple for whatever weird reason. So along this really long document, you have all these sections, and maybe section 1's on page 3, section 2 is on page 11, section 3 is on page 24, and so forth. And you go through and you say, you know what, I want to format my sections. There are headings in here under normal text that you can use. These are pattern ones that have a certain font size, maybe they're bold and so forth. You can use these presets if you want, and that makes it really easy. But if you go to section 1 here and you say, you know what, I want it to be 14 point and bold, and instead of black, I want it to be this really dark red. Now I have to go to page 11 and do the same thing as section 2's words. And now I have to go to page 24 and make the same change on this verbiage right here. Or if I click anywhere in this text that I've just formatted, and I go over here to Paint Format and select it, I can now highlight this word and then hit Release. And it will paint all of the format settings you did on this text to this one. So again, I can click it again, move on to my page 24 or wherever this section 3 header is, highlight it and release. And it will paint all of the formatting to that text as well. The only thing you have to remember is before you move on, click it again and click on Paint Format again, and then move on to the next place you want to color it. When you're done, click it again, click on Paint Format, move on to the next one, and so forth. So it'll save you a lot of time, especially if you have a 30, 40 page document like a student handbook or something like that, and you want to make sure all the headers have a certain format. Saves you time. After that is 100%. This is your zoom feature. Right now I could choose fit. It'll fit the document in whatever screen size. I can choose 50%. I can choose 75%. I can choose 200%, and so forth. So all that does is it will zoom in and zoom out for you. Again, we talked about this. You usually start with normal text, but if you have a title, you can choose that. If you have a subtitle and headers as well. And it goes down to 3 levels of headers. There's actually a place where you can go even deeper, I think down to 6, and I'll show you that later. But if you utilize these headers throughout your document, you can actually insert a table of contents that will add a page ahead of page 1 with all of the titles, subtitles, and headers, and tell you what page they're on. And every single one of those headers in the index table of contents is clickable and will take you to that part of the document. By the way, if you thought that was cool, Word has had that forever. Most people haven't leveraged it, but it's available in Word too. And it's a feature Google wanted to use as well. Arial. Most documents start with Arial. There are more fonts in here. If you're used to Word, you know that there's a ton of fonts you can use in Word. There are not a ton of fonts you can use in Google Docs. And the reason why is that you have all these fonts in Word because ultimately you're going to print this document and send it off. Google is more meant for screen time. And so they have more fonts in here that may or may not be available on every computer. Arial, Comic Sans Serif, Georgia, Times New Roman, Trebuchet, and Verdana are standard on every computer, whether it's a Chromebook, PC, or a Mac. And so if you stick to those, you're going to find that the document will look the same if you were to convert it to Word and send it to somebody and they opened it on their computer. They're going to have those fonts too. But Google wanted to pay attention to the fact that some people want fancier fonts. And so all of these other fonts are available, like in Consolata. And if I pause over it, there are all these different kinds of in Consolata. There's Lobster, which doesn't have anything but Lobster. There's Merriweather, and this one has 4 different versions of it and so forth. Let's see here. Roboto, and it has 6 different versions. You'll notice that Times, Trebuchet, Verdana, the standard fonts do not have any flyouts because you can change those here in bold and the size and italic and all that stuff. Now, if these fonts aren't enough for you, when you click on the font that's there, you'll see more fonts. And this has additional fonts available to you. And you can add any of them. So if you wanted to add, say, Yanon Kafisats, you can just click it and then say OK. And now that will be one of the fonts available to you as well. Over time, Google does add additional fonts in there. And so you can always dig around to see if there's more fonts you'd like to add. To make an adjustment to the font, all you have to do is select what you want to affect. Go up here, and I'll try that Yanon Yafisats. And I'll try a semi-bold. And there it is. Oopsie buttons right here if you didn't want to do that after all. Next to that is your font size. Just like in Word, there are presets from 8 to 96, but you can always type in what you want. Remember, you have to select what you want to affect, and then you can go and choose any of these presets, or you can type in a number you'd like. There's 17. Here is 123, and so forth. Or you can use any of the presets. Your usual suspects are here: bold, italicize, underline, and so forth. I'll undo those. Put this back to 12. Next to your underline is text color. There are 64 web-safe colors, which means that by and large, most modern computer monitor screens are going to render the text one of these 64 colors. If 64 colors isn't enough for you, you can go down here to custom, and you have this rainbow bar where you can pick generally any one of these colors. And if you do, you can then go in here and you can determine from black to white, dark to light, what shade you'd like, and so forth. Now, if you're a nerd like me, it will tell you actually the hexadecimal equivalent of that color too, but you don't have to remember that. So if I decide to use this color on that text, I click OK, and there it is. Now, if I'm 14 pages into this document and I want to use that color again, this custom color I just created, I can go back up here, and any custom colors that I create in this document will be available for me right here. So if I say custom one more time, and this is going to be something in the green level, and I say OK, it's green. And now when I go here and I choose color, you'll see that both that purpley red or maroonish color and the green are located here. So any custom colors you create will be down here in the document to help you use over and over and over again. You also have highlighters. Again, 64 colors. Your custom colors are still available, and you can create more custom colors here. Again, you have to select what you want to affect. So if I choose this yellow, there it is. You can go through with your colors and highlights and make this document as ugly as you want. You don't have to. You can stick with the standard 12-point Arial or Times New Roman black text on a white background, but I just want to make sure you know that all these features are available to you. So I do some undos right here, undo, undo, undo. You'll see that it goes through until I'm back to everything being black and 11-point, I believe. Yep. Now, moving on this menu bar, the next one here is insert hyperlinks. Word has always had this too for the longest time, but if I go over here to public broadcasting system and I highlight and then click on insert link, it will actually do a Google search built in to try to find the website that is related to the text I just chose. Otherwise, I can type in and copy and paste text from another browser tab right into here. But you know what? This is right. So if I click it, it adds the address and I can hit apply. What I like additionally about Google Docs web linking feature is if you click, it doesn't go straight to pbs.org. It actually shows you where you're going to go, and it will try to give you a thumbnail of where you're going to go, which is helpful for students to be safe, to know they're actually going to the place that they think they're going to go to. Then all I have to do is click right here, and it'll take me to Public Broadcasting System's website. So additional features here, comments. If I share this document with somebody, let's see here. Anita, do you want to put the email address you use for Docs and Drive? Do you have access to Docs and Drive right now? I am going to share this document with you, and then I'll let you make a comment on it, okay? So great, thank you for sharing that. So I'm going to go share, and I'm going to put in, and I'm going to give you edit rights and hit send. All right, so if you would go to your Drive and go to shared with me, you should see this Steve's new document. For the rest of you, I want you to look at my screen and pay attention to this area right here. So Anita, go ahead and go to Drive, go to shared with me, and then double click to open Steve's new document. No pressure. You see that Anita just popped in here. So Anita, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to highlight the word green right here. So go ahead and highlight the word green. And then I want you on your screen, I want you to click above there where it says add comment. That little plus sign just to the right of the hyperlink on the menu item. So I want you to click on that, add a comment, and then I want you to add a comment and then go ahead and add that comment in. Whatever comment you want. You can put something like, are you sure this is your favorite color, or mine too, or whatever you'd like. So I'm going to go over here, and you'll notice that it now has a comment. Now, Anita, go ahead and click away somewhere else in this area. So it says green, and it's highlighted, and it says green. That's all she wrote, but she could put any comment she wants. So if I click it, this will move to let me know this is the text related to the comment. If I click on the comment, it will make this a little brighter yellow to let me know this is what text is related to this comment. So Anita, while I'm doing this, will you go ahead and highlight something else on this document and add another comment? So for me, while she's doing that, I can go over here and respond and go green. Yes, green. What's yours? And then I can hit reply. And so Anita, there will be a response to your comment on the right-hand side too. So she's highlighted that, she's going to choose comment, and now it says this is section 1. And if I click it, it turns orange, or if I click here, that pops out. And then I can respond. Otherwise, I can make a change based on whatever text she puts, and I can then hit resolve. So I can actually have a conversation with some collaborator about this document. So it says mine is yellow. And I can add right here, Anita's is yellow. And then I can go over here and say resolved, and it will remove the comment and so forth. So on this one, I can just resolve it and it will go away. So your students or collaborators, if you give them comment rights, not edit necessarily, but comment rights, they can go into the document and they can make comments. You'll see them. You can have a conversation in those menus, and then you can decide if you have resolved whatever the difference is. You know, you got the input and you can just resolve it. Anita, if you would, click on after section 3 and then hit return twice. And I want you to type in some text on this document. I made Anita an editor on this document, and I want you to see how this works. So go ahead and add, there you go. And so Anita's going to start typing. If I make someone an editor in this document, I can see them typing in this document keystroke by keystroke. And the time difference between when she adds a keystroke and when I see it is only like about a split second or so. She could be in Egypt, and I could share this document with her, and the difference would be maybe about, instead of half a second, it might be 0.75 or zero point 0.8 of a second time lag between her typing in this document and me seeing her typing in this document. I can have multiple people in here. So Lisa, do you have access to your Google Drive right now? Go ahead and answer that in chat. No. Anybody else, Deb, have access to Drive open right now? How about A. Bermudez? Nope. Okay. So I won't pester anybody else on here, but I can add multiple people and you can see them all working in here at the same time. There will be a different color cursor for every single one of them. All right, so to remove sharing permissions, all I have to do is go to share again, and I'll go to advanced, and here is our Anita, and I can either change the level of her ability, or I can set an expiration date and say, you have a week to make changes, and I can set an expiration date of a week from now, and it will automatically remove sharing permissions at that time. So if I go right here to the X and hit save, I've just removed Anita's ability to type in this document. She can try all she wants. She won't be able to type in this document anymore. She can still see it because she's here right now, but I've removed her sharing. So she's highlighted, and I'm sure she's trying as much as she can to try to type some text in there, but because I removed that sharing permission, she cannot. Okay, so that's comment. Now this next one is inserting images. So what I'm going to do right here is I am going to get rid of all this text. I'm just going to highlight and hit delete. My favorite animal is a baby elephant. And I'm going to go over to image. Now if I click on this, it gives me a drop-down menu. There are 6 different ways that you can bring in an image into a Google document. You can upload it from your computer if it's there. You can search the web, and I'll show you that in a moment. You can dig through Drive if you have a folder that has images. If you are using a personal Google account and you are syncing your photos on your phone to your Google Photos, which is free, by the way, you can actually dig through your photo albums. You can actually copy and paste a direct address to an image right into here, or you can use Camera. Now, if you're looking at your computer right now, the only place that may have a camera is your monitor, and it's pointed right at your face. So unless a selfie is going to help this picture, and I'm sure I don't want to have my picture on here saying my favorite animal is a baby elephant, it's not going to be helpful. But if I'm editing this document on a tablet or a cell phone, I can leverage the back camera, take a picture, and add it right into this document. That said, I'm going to click right here, search the web. On that right-hand column, it opens up, and there's a search box right here. I could go to images.google.com in another tab and go hunt down pictures of baby elephants, but there is no telling what the copyright permissions are on those images. And if I make this Google Doc public, I could have someone from Reuters or AP News or some photographer come after me because they saw that I used their copyright protected image in my Google document that I shared publicly, and I don't want that. When I go here and I insert an image from the web, this search box right here will do its best to try to find images on Google that have the most loose copyright restrictions. And when I say that, I mean images that are literally anyone can use them, edit them, recolor them, crop them. Now, it's not foolproof. If somebody adds a photograph of the Mona Lisa on the internet and they say this is copyright free and they're lying or they don't have a right to say that, Google may still find it. The difference, though, from you copying an image off of a website that has copyright and pasting it and using this is that it's really easy for you to show if an artist contacts you and says you don't have a right to use that, you can show them this in a doc and show them a search and say, look, this is showing up. And then you can click it and say, this is not your website. So somebody else said your image, your painting or your photo was copyright free. Well, they'll just tell you, okay, remove the image. I'm going to go after that person and tell them they have no right to do that. It usually will take you off the hook because you're using a feature that said, Google said, whoever put it, this is copyright free. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put baby elephant and hit enter. And so because it's looking for images that have really loose copyright restrictions, you're not going to have 67 million photographs of baby elephants, but you're probably going to find an image that might work for your document. So if I go with this cute little critter, I can check it, and I can actually check more than one if I want, and then I'll hit insert. It's going to insert that image, and you'll notice that my margin is right here and right here. This image is bigger than the document, so it automatically resized it to fit in the margins of my document. Now I can resize it by clicking on the document, or on the image rather, in my document, and I can use the corner boxes to resize it proportionately. I can click on any corner box to resize it, or I can use these center boxes right here. If I use these, it will not resize proportionately. So you see it got squat all of a sudden. And I can try to manually bring it back to proportions. But if you just start with the corners, you'll know that it's always going to resize proportionately. The little dot on top, if you've ever used PowerPoint, works the same way. If I click on that dot, I can actually tilt my image. Again, I'll go undo, undo to put it back straight. Now you might have noticed that in this area underneath, when I click on an image, there's these that pop up. These are your ability to wrap text. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how this works. I'm just going to put a bunch of text in here and so forth. On this image, if I choose right here to wrap text, I can then take this image and drag it into the area where the text is and release, and it will wrap the text around that particular image. If I resize the image in this environment, it will rewrap the text to fit there as well. Rewrap it even smaller and so forth. If I click on this image and drag it over here to the right side and release, you'll see that it wraps it there as well. Now, if I click on this image and put it in the center, it will wrap the text around it completely. So if I choose to wrap text, I can drag and drop this image anywhere in the document, and any text related to it will move. You also have the ability to decide how much white space you want between the text and the image itself. By default, it starts with 1/8 of an inch, but you can move it down to 1/16, and you'll notice that the text is closer. You can choose 1/4, you can choose 3/8 of an inch, and it will give you a wider girth between the image and the text. The other two in line will break the text and put the image right where you said you wanted it. The next one is break text further, and that will force all text to be on separate lines than the image. I don't find either of those very helpful. The one that I see 99% of all people use when they click is to wrap the text. So I'm going to blow this up a little bit more, and you'll see word wrap is still in full effect. And I want to show you features related to images. Again, if I click on this image, this menu bar changes. I'm going to click away, and you see it's the regular menu bar. But if I click on the image, I get a couple of image options right here. And one of them is crop text, or crop image rather. If I click it, you'll see that on top of these resize bars, I get these black borders. If I use the black borders, I can actually crop this image right here in this document. Maybe I don't want that left and right. Then I can click away, and it will crop that portion off. Drag that over a little bit more. There we go. And I'll bump the text. 1/8 of an inch. That makes it a little bit prettier. I'm going to click on it again. Right next to crop is reset the image. And if I reset the image, it's going to put it back to the size and remove the crop boxes. I don't want that, so I'm going to hit undo. But just know, if you've gone through this and you're like, oh my gosh, what have I done to this image? You can always click on the image and choose reset, and it'll put it back the way it was. So other options, image options. On the right-hand side, it steals that space for a column, size and rotation. You're going to actually manually type in the width and height, the scale, and you can even lock in aspect ratio. So if you change one, like width, I'll change it to 4, it will change the height to match. And rotation, I can rotate it here by using the up and down arrows if I want, rather than manually doing it. I'll collapse that. Text wrapping, wrap text. I want it wrapped on both sides, so text can be on the left and right. And here's where you can tweak the margins even further manually. You've got position right here. Right now, I can move it and the text will move as well, but I can also say fix it to an exact position on the page based on how many inches from the Y and X axes. Recolor. Right now, this image came the way it came from the web. It's full color, but if I choose a recolor, I can actually put any number of color washes onto this image as well. So here's light 3, here's a yellow one, here is a greenish one. Sometimes they get washed out, some are better than others, but you can add a color wash if you want, or you can say never mind, no recoloring. You can also, by the way, adjust the brightness and the contrast under adjustments. And you can make an image semi-transparent if you'd like. I'm just going to hit reset and close this out. If you change your mind, you have image regret, you'd like to have a different image in here, anytime you want, you can click on the image, choose replace image, and I can search the web again, baby elephant. And I can say, I want this one instead, and hit replace, and it will resize it to fit in that exact location. All right, so there are other ones here, align text, left, right, centered, justified, works also with images. You have line spacing right now. Our line spaces are 1.15, but you can make them 1.5, single, double, and you can add spaces before and after paragraphs, and you can customize. You also have numbers and bullets, and you have indents, and you have decreasing or increasing indents, so you have indents and outdents. And then you have this guy right here. This one a lot of people don't know about, and I believe Word has it too. If you've ever copied a paragraph of text off the web and pasted it on a document and you went, oh my gosh, this text is a weird color. What is this background highlighting going on? If there's a bunch of weird stuff going on and you just want black text on a white background, you can highlight the text that you copied and pasted and click right here, and it will strip all of that weird formatting off of your text so that it's just black text on a white background. It may save you a bunch of time. Up on top under File, you can share here as well. You can open a new document, open an existing document, make a copy of a document. Anytime that you're in a presentation and you're using a doc or slides that you visit, if you log into Drive, you can go File, make a copy, and make a copy of that presentation. Here I can download it to Word, PDF. There is a built-in PDF creator, and EPUBs as well. If you work with students and they're creating original works of writing in a Google Doc, just know that they can download it to EPUB. An EPUB file, if you email it to the parent of the student and they try to open it on their cell phone or tablet, it will say, would you like me to open this with iBooks or a Kindle reader or Amazon Books? And if they say yes, it will add that book, that document into their e-reader. And so if a child writes a 3-page really nice report on, say, a country, you can actually download as an EPUB, send it to their parents, and they can add it as a book in their book collection on their cell phone or tablet. And they can read it with their Kindle reader. They can read it with all kinds of different readers. Kids' eyes light up when they know that grandma and grandpa can open up Kindle or their iBooks and see that book in their library, the book that that student wrote. You can email as an attachment. This one's a cool one. If you've ever had students work together in a document before, and someone says, Frankie was in the document and they deleted a bunch of my paragraphs, and Frankie says, I did not. Well, under file and version history, if you have made changes or someone else has gone in and edited, you can go to version history and you can see version history. On the right-hand side, it will open up, and if I expand it, every single change ever made to this document, including the ones made by Anita, are available to me. So if I go down here to 211 and click, it's back to that version, and I can see the areas that Anita has changed. So I can go down through the document to find out where Frankie messed up the document, and I can restore it back to the place before Frankie made those changes. So if I keep going, here's earlier, and here's before Anita came into the document. If I keep scrolling down, I can keep going until this document is fresh, brand new, and blank. So at any time, I can find the version I want to revert back to, and all I have to do is then click right here to restore this version. I won't. I'll leave it here, and I'll just back out slowly. But just know that if a revision is made and you want to go back before that, under File, Reversion History, version history will let you go right back there again, okay? So I mentioned printing and so forth. This one right here, I mentioned that we'll just make a PDF and download it. But if I go to File and I go to Page Setup, here's where I can go from portrait to landscape. I bet some of you may be wondering about that. This is where you can go landscape. Here's also where you can say, well, ultimately, I'm going to print this on a legal document, so it will make it a legal size document for you to work. Tabloid, folio, and so forth. You can adjust the margins right here so they're not 1 inch. Maybe you want a top margin of 1, a bottom margin of 0.5. You can do that. So I can go in here and say 0.5. My left margin, I want it to remain 1, but my right, I want it to be 0.5. I can do that right here and then click OK, and it'll set those margins. But here's the cool thing. If you use Google Docs in the office environment and you always have these margin settings, you can go right here and say set as default. Every Google Doc you ever open from that point forward will have that default setting. You can change it at any time. If you're making a flyer and you don't want it to be a white background, 64 plus custom color backgrounds. If you would like to have a colored background, I'm gonna hit cancel. Under edit, same stuff as you saw in the menu bar, okay? Paste, undo, redo, but you also have select all, and you have find and replace. So you can change it. My thing here says favorite animal is a baby elephant. So if I choose baby elephant and I say replace it with baby giraffe, I can go ahead and replace all. And now it says my favorite animal is baby giraffe. Under view, there's a couple of different layouts that you can use. You can remove the ruler if you'd like to get rid of that. And there's also a built-in equation toolbar. You can actually go right here and you can build mathematical equations on this document. So you can build formulas if you wanted to use this as a quiz tool to build handout quizzes and so forth. To get rid of that, all you have to do is click on View and click this again, and it will remove it. Now under Insert, I showed you Image. You can also insert tables, drawings, charts, including data from an existing sheet, horizontal line breaks, footnotes, special characters. This is a cool one. I'm going to highlight all this and hit delete. So I'm going to put in, my name is Inigo Montoya. Now, if you watch Princess Bride, you know what that reference is. Now, if the O right here has an accent point. I can go insert special characters. And I can go in here and type in O, and it will show me all the O's until I find the one with the proper accent point. And it will add it right there over what I highlighted. Now, it goes deeper than that. I can put in A's and E's and all that stuff and get accent points. Or right down here, if I wanted pi. So I'm going to click out here and put the pi symbol and go insert special characters. I can hand draw in this box using my mouse the pi symbol, and it will show me anything that looks like it, and there it is. This is a character. I can highlight it. I can make it bigger. I can bold it, and so forth. All kinds of stuff can be drawn in here, and if you want, you can hit refresh, and it'll get rid of whatever was in there. So I'll close this one more time, and I'll go insert special character. And with my mouse, I can draw emojis. And if you're really good with your mouse, yes, you can actually draw a poo emoji, and yes, it will show up. I'm going to refresh out on here. And so here's the house, and so forth. So you can put any kinds of characters, scientific equation characters. That one right there is the average logarithmic energy decrement per fission collision. Don't ask. Epsilon. Okay, so you get the gist. You can hand draw it in if you're not sure. It will find it for you, and then you can throw it right in here. That's a cool one. Headers and footers, page numbers, line or page breaks, hyperlinks, but remember it's right here too. Bookmarks in a page, and tables of contents. Bookmarks will allow you to highlight text, add a bookmark, say where it's going to go to, and if you click on the bookmark, it will take you to that section of the document. Format, text. On here was bold, italic, and underlined, but if you go to format text, you'll see you also have strike through, superscript, and subscript. Paragraph styles. This one takes you to 6 levels of headings on top of title and so forth. Aligning and indenting, line spacing again, columns. A single column document, which every Google Doc starts with. If I remove this and go insert, or format rather, columns, I can make it a 2 or 3 column document. So I'm going to start adding text here, and I'm just going to paste some more. And you'll notice that in column 2, the text starts to flow, and then in column 3, and if you insert an image in here, it will continue the flow. So insert, and go right here, insert image, search the web, and I'll choose this baby elephant again and insert it. It will resize to fit in that column, and it will push the text to fit in here. So under format columns, you can make a nice 2-column or a newsletter looking 3-column document in here. And you can put your text and put images and so forth. For a title page, just make a new document, and then you can leave it 1 column and then put your text, and then you can put these together and turn it into a newsletter. Tools. Here's your spelling and grammar. Word count if you want it. You can translate this document. So if I choose Tools Translate, there are 60 different languages. So if you wanted to see my favorite animal is a baby elephant repeated in Arabic, you can click here and go translate, and it will open in a new tab, make a brand new document, and it'll translate it. Over and over again, my favorite animal is a baby elephant. I can also go Tools, Translate, and I can go to Espanol. Now, usually it's really easy to get somebody from the front office to find someone who's fluent enough in Spanish to translate a document for you. But if you needed it in Hmong, if you needed it in Arabic, if you needed it in any number of different languages, um, the Translate tool is very helpful for you. Sometimes it's not going to be 100% right. Maybe it's 100% right for somebody from Michoacan, but somebody from Jalisco may say that's not the word we use. We don't see it that way. It's more formal. But you're not going to wind up translating my favorite animal is a baby elephant. It's not going to translate it into something that's not understandable. They'll get the gist of it, 95% of it, and they'll probably understand enough to be able to pass. And besides that, the fact that they have a student who's emerging as a bilingual student in the classroom, they'll be able to help them understand exactly what you were trying to say in the document too. But this gets you a long way, especially when you cannot find somebody who speaks the language you need to translate it into. So again, these are translated copies and they'll be created for you. So if I go in here, and refresh, I have translated copies of that same document in Drive. Now, the one thing you won't see in here that I alluded to is you can do voice typing. You're not going to see it in any browser except for Google Chrome. So if you use Google Chrome, under Tools, when you open a document, you'll see voice to text or voice typing. And if you click it and you say the mic can listen to you, you can talk and it will write every word you say as you type. You have to kind of treat it like Siri, where you have to say new paragraph, comma, period, stuff like that. But it will type what you say, and then you can go back and edit any adjustments you need to make, which is a great tool for speech therapists because you can use it with students to get auto feedback on how they're doing with things like diphthongs, CH, TH, SH sound words, and then it's instant feedback to help them kind of modulate the placement of their tongue in order to see if they can get Google to type the exact word they wanted to say. Add-ons. Under Get Add-ons, these are all third-party vendor tools. If you click them, you can add them into Docs. Drive has this as well, and it'll add additional features right into your Google Doc, like Avery Labels. If you need to have a label maker, Avery Labels has actually an add-on that will allow you, if I click it, I can say, I'll install it myself. I don't want to install it for everyone at TCOE. And it's going to ask, can I have permissions to do certain things based upon what its needs are? And if I say yes, it's going to add that add-on. So I'll let that go roundy for a moment. Any add-ons that are placed on a Google document, when I leverage them, it's been installed, I'll say done. So now in this Google Doc, if I go to add-ons, here is the Avery label merge, and I can hit start. Now, obviously, this is not set up for labels, but I can go in and I can pick the spreadsheet I want to use, and then I can add the merge fields into this document, and then I can pick the label that I want, and the sizing and so forth. And then, oh, this is big, I'm using multiple accounts in the same browser. You won't see that typically, but it will allow you then to pick the label, and then you can put your Avery labels in, and it'll PDF it down and allow you to print it right out to your labels. So this will help you overcome the fact that you're not using Word and Excel. You can still do label making. So once the add-ons are on here, these are available for every single document. So if I go to this word cloud generator that I added before, I can go to classic word cloud. And you'll see that animal, elephant, baby, and favorite are the most used words. So it's a boring word cloud, but if you have a document with responses from people, you can build a word cloud in a Google Doc as well. Sharing works the same as Google Docs. You can put in names, or you can hit advanced, and you can go through global permissions. So I'm going to stop here. Does anyone have any questions about Docs and Drive? You can throw them in the chat window if you'd like, or you can pop your microphone on and you can ask. All right. Oh, I know, a lot. I will be putting this particular one and this particular Zoom meeting in as a YouTube link, and I will be sending it to all of you. I covered a lot of territory in this time frame, but with the YouTube video, you'll be able to open Drive in another tab, listen a little bit, hit pause, and try the same things in Drive. Open a doc, follow along, and anytime you want, you can pause, you can rewind me, and you can go back and just go through bit by bit, step by step, at a much more relaxed pace. So I mentioned in Drive that you can share folders, and I showed you that you could right click or you can hit share right here and you can share a folder. When you share a folder, just know that if you add a document into that folder, it will automatically take up the sharing permissions of that folder. So if you have a bunch of documents over time you need to share with a coworker, make a folder, share that folder with them. It doesn't matter if the folder's empty. As you make documents, you can put them into that folder or create them in that folder, and they will mimic those sharing permissions as well, and they will see anything you put in there. If you drag a PDF or a Word document in there, not a problem. So the other thing I'm going to show you, if you still want to hang around for a little bit more, I've got in Drive here, I'm going to go ahead and highlight all this stuff right here. And let's see here, I'll just leave them. I'm going to go ahead and drag a folder in here real quick off the desktop. So you'll notice that if I drag it off the desktop, it allows me to just drag and dump it in here. I don't even have to go to new upload. I can drag it from my desktop right in here. And so this will open up some Google Practice files. So this is kind of like a little bit more intermediate, but I'm just going to show it to you real quick. I see, I'm going to go ahead and refresh the browser. All right, Google Docs practice files. These are a Word document, an Excel file, and a PowerPoint, as well as images. So you see that you can put in all kinds of different stuff in here. If I double click on this doc, it's going to show me a preview. And if I say open it with Docs, it's going to open it temporarily. And I'll show you what this looks like real quick. Here's the name of the file, but it says docx. This is me typing in a Word formatted document. It's not been translated to Google Docs. And if I go ahead and close out, because all changes are saved, and go back to Drive, I'll back out of here. This is still a Word doc. And if I double click it again, this is me typing in a Word formatted document. So you can open Word docs, you can open Excel files and PowerPoints directly in Google and edit them as that particular thing. So open it with slides. This is a PowerPoint. Might take a little bit of time, but when it's done, it's still a PowerPoint, and I can make changes in this PowerPoint, and then I can close it out, and it will auto-save those changes, and it's still a PowerPoint, all right? But if you want, you can convert. So if you open up a document, say an Excel file, and go open it with Sheets, again, this is still going to be an Excel file when it's done. But I can, but I can go to File and I can save it as a Google Sheet. It'll leave the Excel file alone and give me a Google version of the document. Same with Docs, same with PowerPoint. If I open it and then go to File, save it, it will convert a copy of it into that format. I'm going to stop here because I know I covered a ton. So that said, does anybody have any questions at all?